What's up, everybody? This is Chris Roscoe, and this is Operation Moksha, and today we're talking about authority and structure and discipline and all that sort of really terrible shit that most of us creative types really hate and have a problem with for most of our lives. I'm going to be talking about this because this isn't a problem that we all need to have, right? If you're like me and you're creative and you like to be free and you like to have all these sorts of things, then structure and authority and discipline and organization have likely been a pain in your ass for your entire life. And they don't have to be. They can be something that you really love and you really cherish and actually give you a little bit more freedom than you had before. And I want to talk about how that's possible, because for people like you and me who are creative and we have these big ideas and we have these visions of how we'd like things to be, it's damn near criminal to never let that take form. It's almost unfair to never give that structure and allow it to come into the world, because we have good ideas, and without structure and without discipline and without these things that we rebel against almost by nature, that without those our ideas never get out, and your ideas never get out. And I want your ideas to get out. I want to see your art. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to see what fucking events you put together, whatever your thing is. Like I want to see you do it. And just the creativity and just the ideas isn't enough. It needs to be given structure. And so I want to give you some insight into how you can start to develop these things yourself. You know, because my own personal relationship with this is I've had a problem with authority and structure and organization for pretty much my entire life. My dad died when I was 7. And even though I was tested into all these super smart kid classes and everybody expected me to do really good in school, I crumbled. I just crashed and burned and failed every grade from 3rd grade until 11th grade. And then only passed because I went to like this special school where they didn't care if I was drunk and high every day, and just like basically gave me a participation trophy for high school. Yay, education system. But anyways, that's my relationship to it, where I was so anti-authoritarian and so anti-discipline and all that shit. I left my family's religion when I was 12, got kicked out of my house when I was 16, barely graduated high school, lived on my own for pretty much, a lot of my life. And so when it came time for me to start my business, suddenly I needed all those things that I'd rebelled against my entire life. I needed structure. I needed discipline. I needed to find my own internal authority, and I needed to organize my thoughts, at least enough just to create a program to guide people through, or to create, like enough discipline to make a silly little meme and write some shit every day. Like all that stuff started becoming necessary, and I'd never built a strong relationship with it. And so the stuff I used to rebel against and the stuff I used to define myself by rebelling against became the biggest pain in my ass. And it just wasn't sustainable anymore. So if you're the type of person where you want to get your art out in the world, you want to get your vision out in the world, you want to get your ideas out in the world, then you need structure and discipline as well. And so I'm going to be talking about today of like one of the baseline ideas that will help you develop these things. And then I'm actually going to tell you how to shift your relationship to authority so that you can own it and have it in your own way. And so the first thing I want to talk about is, why is this even important, right? Authority and structure and all these things, they don't exist in a vacuum. They exist to support something. What is the thing you need supported? Is it a creative endeavor? Are you an artist? Are you like me and you want to be a coach or a healer or some kind of transformational whatever? Are you do you want to make a family? Do you want to build a different kind of business? Like, what is the thing you need discipline for? What is discipline in service of? When you understand that, you'll be able to shift your relationship to it instead of having this kind of baseline authoritarian view of these types of things where it's like, oh, if you don't have structure and if you don't blah, 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 then you're just kind of a shit person. And it's like, that's not true. I mean, you'd be somewhat ineffective, and maybe you won't be satisfied because you might not ever get your ideas out in the world, but that doesn't make you a shit person. It doesn't make you an inherent failure as a human because you can't, abide these things. And I think that's what most of us are rebelling against, which I'm going to get to in a moment. But for me, it's like, I need discipline so that I can make really good content and so that I can release it regularly so that people can depend on me. And I need these things so that I can build consistent relationships with, the people that watch my stuff and with my clients. And I need discipline so that I can live my life in a way to where I want to talk to people instead of feeling burned out. Like if I don't work out every day, and if I don't have fun with my friends, and if I don't do other things, if I don't live my life in a certain way, then having all these people reach out to me gets exhausting. But I live my life in such a way to where I'm happy to do these things. And that requires discipline from me. Because without discipline, without structuring your life in a certain way, you can eventually hate the things you love, because you can position yourself around them in a way that doesn't actually work for you. And that's the gift of structure and organization, is to be able to say, here's the thing that I love. Here's the structure it needs to take in order to work at its best capacity. And so that's the other thing, is that these two things work in tandem with each other. They have a symbiotic relationship. And I personally look at this as like a masculine feminine thing, because that's just how I envision it, and it's beautiful to me. So if that imagery bothers you, then use something else. But this is how I see it, where it's like you've got this feminine part of you, which is the water, right? It's free flowing, it goes wherever it wants and all sorts of things. And you got the masculine part of you, which is essentially like the vase or whatever. You pour water into the vase, the water takes the shape of the vase, you got a whole and complete thing where the masculine holds the container and the feminine sits inside of it because of the container that it held. So with that in mind, the feminine would be your ideas, your vision, your desires, the things that you want that just naturally arise out of the ether. And then the masculine is how to structure and organize those things so they can exist in the world. For me, it's like, I want to change the world. I want to help everybody integrate their shadow. I want to help people see the world clearly without eyes, that are clouded by hate of half of ourselves. I want us to be able to see the world forthrightly and address it straightforwardly. And it's like, okay, well, then how do I do that? It becomes a matter of like, what structures do I need to do? Like, blah, 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 blah. And then it becomes like marketing and blah, 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 and all that sorts of shit. And so they have a relationship. It's not that like this thing's a pain in the ass that you need to figure out how to work with. It's like they actually need each other. The reason I like to think of this as masculine and feminine is because it's a relationship where they are equally and mutually dependent on each other. Like masculine with just structure, with no beauty and no love and no vision and no warmth to fill it, is pointless. Whereas like, vision and all this sort of stuff that never takes shape is like also pointless. They absolutely are dependent on each other. And I love seeing it this way because it makes it like romantic to me. It makes it like these two parts of myself that even though they appear to be opposing each other, they desperately need each other in order to become fulfilled. Like to me, it's beautiful. And so that's the type of relationship that you can have. And so first I recommend figuring out what it's in service of. For me, it's my business and my life and my ability to help other people and change the world in the way that I want to change it. For you, why is discipline important? All right. And so the second thing we're going to talk about is how to actually shift your relationship with it. And like most things, if you ever watch my content, you're going to find that the number one way I always say to change things is look at the way they already are. Like really understand the way it already is. Because the thing I'm learning about authority and structure and all this sort of shit is that we don't actually, from what I can tell, is for me anyways, I don't rebel against authority as a blanket term. And I don't rebel against discipline and structure as a blanket term. What I'm rebelling against is the ways that these things were presented to me early on that I internalized. I internalized structure and authority as these oppressive things that were forcing things on me that I didn't want. Like Christian dogma and all the early religious beliefs, and then all the things they tell you as a part of a family, and then all the things they tell you when you're going to public school. And it's like, that's all the stuff I internalized. And I was like, whoa, I disagree with a lot of that, but I was taught that that's just the way it is. And so you can either accept or rebel against the way it is. And if those were my only two options, then I chose to rebel because I didn't accept them. But here's the thing. If you can accept the fact that that's just your projection and your internalization of the experience, then you can own structure and authority and discipline in a way that works for you, right? Because I love the structures that I create. When I have an authentic idea and I come up with an authentic structure for that idea, I feel whole. I feel relaxed. I feel more free because my entire personality is engaged in creating the thing that I want. I'm not pushing or pulling against whatever anyone else is telling me. I've owned the part of me that internalized that, and I've dealt with it. And I've said, okay, so that's what they wanted me to do. How do I want to do it? And then I give my ideas the structures that I want to give them, and I give my plans and my desires and my visions the structure that I want to give them, and I feel good about it because it's all me. And so the number one thing to do is look at what is your current view of structure? What is your current view of organization? What is your current view of authority? Likely it's this, you've internalized it as this like oppressive force that's acting on you from outside. And you either have to like totally obey or totally rebel. There's like no gray area with most of the ways that we've been introduced to authority. And so that gives you a very polarized relationship with it, where sometimes you're all in and maybe you feel good about it because you're like, hey, fuck, look at me. I'm super disciplined now. But then you're like, oh, it sucks. And you go over here and you're like, actually, I don't want anything to do with discipline. Like, get me out of this whole thing. I don't want any of that. There is a middle ground. And in order to integrate the two so that they can have the symbiotic relationship that I discussed earlier, you need to first currently own the way you look at it. Like for me, it was like Jehovah's Witnesses. I was raised by Jehovah's Witnesses. So obviously there's a lot there that I didn't really vibe with. And I had to own that. And then it's like, okay, public school. Like, okay, they told me a lot of bullshit too that I don't think is right. So let me own that. And when I say own that, I mean, let me look at my projections and my opinions and my judgments, and let me be really honest with them, with myself about them. Now, let me express them either to myself in my head or on a piece of paper or to a friend or to a coach or whatever. Let me get them out of my head so that I can understand what they are. Like, I don't like the idea that if I don't obey these certain sets of rules that I'm essentially evil. Like, that's fucked up. That's the way the Jehovah's Witnesses taught me to look at stuff. That if you don't do these things, you're essentially an evil piece of shit who doesn't deserve to live. It's like, that's kind of a bleak outlook. So I'm going to own that. I'm going to own that they told me that. I'm going to own that I internalized that. And I'm going to own that I used that as a way to govern my life from that point forward. And it didn't work then, and I'm ready to do something new. So that's what it looks like to really own it. But you have to figure out what yours is. Probably from your parents, probably from if you have older siblings or maybe even younger siblings or TV or whatever the fuck it might be. You have your own unconscious relationship to these things. And you need to own that so that you can form your own conscious relationship to these things. And when you form your conscious relationships to these things, all you're really doing is saying, this is how I want it done. These are my values. These are the things that I want to see. Or it's like I make memes, right? Like, how dumb is that? But it's like, it's a really cool and fun way to structure my message. And then I write my captions so I can go deeper. It's like, it's a fun way to structure things for me. And then these videos, this is a good way to structure my ideas because I think quicker than I can write a lot of times. And so when I speak, I can just straight from my brain to my mouth. It's a great way to structure my ideas. And people seem to like watching them because you can do all kinds of other shit while you're listening to this. You don't have to be watching me be overly gestury. You can just hear this while you're driving or doing your dishes or whatever. Like, it's a cool way to structure things. And then I got to structure my courses and I got to structure my offerings for my clients. And it's like, it's exciting because these are the ways that I want to see them structured. I don't have to do it the same dumb way I've seen everyone else do it that I don't think works. It's like, let me own my ability to create my own structure and create my own structure out of my own ideas. So it's purely authentic. Like, that is fucking exciting. That's the real creative process of taking your, like, the molten core of your ideas and putting them into the forge of your own structure until you got the most badass fucking sword on the planet. Like, that's what happens when you can bridge the gap between these two and make shit happen. And all it really takes is it only requires you to God, I butchered that sentence. The only thing it requires of you is to face your current relationship with these more, masculine tendencies or these more masculine aspects of life so that you can create your own version of it. So now I hope this is really helpful. I hope this gave you an actionable, like, hands-on way to deal with this. This is my intent, is to make all my free content helpful enough to where if you're like flat broke, but you have a fire in your heart, my content, I make it so that you can change your life. But I also am taking clients right now, taking personal clients. I still have another month in my group course, and I'm not even sure I'm going to do another group course. So I am accepting personal clients right now. So if you do want help with some of this stuff, please let me know, and I'd be happy to get on the phone with you for free. And we'll come up with a plan for you whether or not you sign up. So you don't have to think that, like, if you get on the phone with me, that, like, I'm going to be mad at you if you don't buy stuff. Like, don't waste my time, preferably, but if you want to be serious about changing your life and you want to just get a breakthrough real quick and see if I can help, then let me know. I love you, and I'll see you next time.